Yo, what's up guys, TheInsaneGamefreak here to bring you a One Piece related video. Yay! Okay. Now, the whole thing is that I told myself that I was going to try to avoid doing ridiculous One Piece and Naruto stuff purely kind of because of the chapters, but I needed to remind myself that I don't want to just constantly go over, just skip those two series, because One Piece is my favorite anime and manga series. Why the fuck would I just ignore it? So, I'm going to try to do discussions that are a little bit deeper than my standard. My standard discussions, I don't want it to just be as simple as, is Luffy's Haki going to get stronger within this next part of the series? Like, I don't want it to be something simple. I'm going for a little bit different and a little bit more of expectations and conversation that come from it. This one is going to be about the Supernovas. But it's not just going to be about who's your favorite and why he's your favorite. It's going to be about, in the new world, we've been introduced to Law in the Punk Hazard arc. Law and Smoker, we're going through that whole situation. No spoilers about any new chapters because, 2 weeks behind Shoujo Alpha. Just throwing it out there because I know motherfuckers like to spoil things. Anyways, this essentially is kind of about, you can actually, now I'm not saying you can't actually, in the comments I would like you guys to mention who is your favorite Supernova and why. If it's Law, I kind of don't want to hear it because the Law hype right now is ridiculous and it's going to become oversaturated pretty soon. And it might start ticking me off. But for right now, let's just, if it's Law, just say Law and just move on. Anyway. What this is about the Supernovas is what you think they're going to be doing in the new world. What arcs do you think will be coming out of these characters? Because it's kind of already established that in at least some of these new world arcs, the majority of these new world arcs probably will have secondary characters. Now, we got Law and Punk Hazard. We know Kid is fucking with Big Mom from that little bit we heard. But we still have, like, I believe we have, like, a decent amount of extra members. Now, obviously, Kid and Killer, obviously together, so the same thing with Luffy and Zoro, so we can't really talk about them. I kind of want to just throw out my speculations and the ones I'm looking forward to, because a lot of people would say Law and Kid are probably their favorite Supernovas. For me, personally, I like both of them. I don't think really much will amount with Kid. And I know it's kind of mean, but no offense. But if you look at Kid, Kid seems really basic in the sense that this nigga looks like, he literally looks like a stronger version of, like, Bellamy, in the sense that he just wants to beat the shit out of everything. Like the nigga was crucifying niggas the last when we actually saw him in full view. I mean honestly, this is the way I feel like was gonna happen. When we get to the whole fighting Big Mom arc, I expect Kid to be up there to try to whoop Big Mom's ass, because you can tell that he's trying to do that right now. And then you're gonna have Luffy coming in there from Fisherman Island, and it's gonna be like, Kid's gonna be like, I'm here to whoop your ass. And Luffy's gonna be like, no, I'm here to whoop your ass. And then they're gonna fight, Luffy's gonna beat his ass. Like, I'm not expecting too much with Kid, because no offense, but Kid doesn't seem like a character that has ulterior motives, honestly. The nigga seems pretty straightforward. That's just me. So, he's not really the one I'm looking forward to seeing. The ones I'm looking forward to seeing is probably Drake, ex-Drake, and probably Scratch Manapoo. Scratch Manapoo, I'm gonna lie and say that I'm gonna not lie. What the fuck am I on? I'm not gonna lie. Well, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Is I'm not gonna lie, but part of it is due to my bias with Scratch Manapoo. Because me personally, when I first saw the Supernovas, Scratch Manapoo was automatically my favorite. Also, the fact that I expect him to fight Brook. And if anyone doesn't know, I am a Brook fan. So obviously, I mean, come on, the man's. We obviously know the dude has a devil fruit power, and he's from the Long Arm tribe. He has 2 things that Brook would totally have a reason to fight him for. He was fucked over. Well, he wasn't really. I guess you could say he was trained by the Long Arm tribe, and he's a musician. I want to see those 2 fight. I don't know the pretenses of it because we don't really know that much about Scratch Manapoo's like personality, but I want to see them 2 fight. The reason why I say ex-Drake is another dude I'm looking forward to is because, if anyone doesn't remember, ex-Drake is an ex-Marine. We just learned the shit about Echo G not being, like, a Marine anymore. You have a Supernova who is also an ex-Marine. I would find that kind of cool if we ended up in another arc where you had X-Drake and Ego G dealing with some shit. Now, obviously, this is kind of ruled out because if I remember right, the last time we saw X-Drake was fucking with Kaido, if I remember right. I don't think Kaido was on the island, but I think it was like he was on Kaido's territory, and like one of Kaido's men was fighting him and shit. The other reason why is because I want to see a variation in his power, because we know this nigga has a dinosaur, Zoan fruit. No offense, but like his first form is literally just a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like, I want to see variations for Drake. I'm also wondering, is there a relation to why? Usually they have some type of relation to a character in their Zoans. Like Kaku and the giraffe thing was hilarious. I'm kind of curious to see if they have anything correlating with Drake and dinosaurs. I also want to see his backstory just to see why he was a Marine and why he dropped out of the Marine. Because, I think Drake has a really cool design. Nigga looks like Zoro. Not like Zoro from One Piece. I mean like actual Zoro from American, well technically it's Mexican related movie. You know, the movie Zoro. He kind of looks like that. With the cape and the fucking hat and the glasses. And I know like his new design, he has like his eyes not cut off, but he has like this mask going over his eye for some damn reason. Even though he can still see out of that eye. I don't know what the fuck that's about, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. So I'm curious to see how that goes. You have an ex-Marine, and you have an ex-Marine that you knew of as a Supernova, and an ex-Marine that just became an ex-Marine that we just learned about. Not even like, it's been like, what, maybe 20, 30 chapters ago? I'm not 100% sure. I'm kind of bad with chapter lag. But I'm kind of curious how that would go. Scratch on the Poo, the last time we saw this dude, he was running off a crazy-ass island. I'm not really sure how you would incorporate him with any other character we know of right now. He may just show up on a random island. The same thing for Bastille Hawkins. I actually don't fully remember what he was doing before the time skip. I know he was in the New World, but I think he was just kind of chilling. And I'm kind of curious to see the variation in these guys as, Devil Fruits. Because for Scratchman Apu, we know all of his attacks are music based because he's playing all the instruments on his body. But why is it that like if he starts playing the song, then he cuts people in half like he did with Kizaru, and like if he hits his drum, it's an explosion. Like does each instrument do something different? And that'd be kind of interesting, especially if you have Brook, who also fights with music in some sense. Then you have Hawkins, who the only thing we know about his Devil Fruit is the fact that he's a scarecrow who can essentially use his men as like shields if he were to take any fatal wounds. It would kind of just transfer over to his like puppets. Like that's kind of what he is. He's like a scarecrow who has like voodoo dolls of his crew in his body. But I know that's not his only attack. And if something tells me that if he there's a scene where he's fighting Kizaru and he has like these stakes in his hand, I'm thinking there's something to that ability. Like that if he hits you with those stakes, it either won't hurt and create a voodoo doll of you or something along those lines. Like I think his shit will have something to do with voodoo dolls. Just out of curiosity. I'm just taking kind of hints and guesses here. Now, Bonnie is a little interesting purely because we know her ability has something to do with aging. We just know that she can age and de-age herself. But there's no way her ability is just that simple. Obviously, the only relation we can really make for Bonnie is the fact that she somehow got away from Akainu within the past two years. Because she's in a coat running around, which probably means she's on the run from Akainu. So I'm assuming when we run into Bonnie, there's going to be some Akainu shit. How far it's going to go, we don't know, but it'd be interesting. And not saying, I doubt every New World arc is going to have I doubt every New World arc will have a fucking Supernova in it, but I'm just saying it's general concepts. Now, I believe the other two Supernovas are obviously killers with Kid. Is Don Capone, and I forget the angel dude's name because to me, he was like the least interesting of them all. Now, fucking Capone, from what he looks like, it looks like Capone is literally a one-man army. He kind of has like that same situation as Law, where he has like a room around him probably, and once like apparently he has kind of like all these compartments on his body, where I'm assuming he has like part of his crew hanging out in his body that can just shoot niggas from point blank range. Because you remember that scene where like his stomach opened up and these cannons shot out of his stomach, and once they got past like this weird ass barrier around him, it turns into like giant cannonballs and shot people. So I think this nigga is like Capone is probably like a Trojan horse, where he's like, he has like all these like essentially he's kind of like the main body, and he has like all these little factions in his body who can just cause all these different attacks. What his abilities may actually be, I'm not sure. Also, just because I would love to see Capone, I feel like Capone will start some mafia shit. In terms of my theories for Hawkins, I feel like Hawkins is gonna be one of those characters we run across during some ridiculous, like, because Hawkins is all in the tarot card reading. Somehow I feel like if they ever start mixing supernovas with each other, I feel like I would end up seeing Hawkins and Bonnie together. Not totally sure why, I just have this feeling. I mean, and I'm just curious in terms of the variation of attacks. Obviously I can wait and see, but you know, I just figured I'd throw it out in the discussion too. Like, and what's his name? The fucking angel dude who was like fucked over near that island of lightning that we think he might actually be at. Which I'm actually curious now, because I wonder after Punk has it, if they go to that island and they run into him, is he still going to be there after 2 years? Maybe he will be kind of like a fodder supernova, but because he kind of feels like it anyway. Like I don't even think he has a devil fruit power. It looks like he's from. The only thing I see relating to him is the fact that he has wings, which you could make the reference that maybe he's from Sky Island or Skypea and shit, and maybe he has some relation to the Skypeans. Maybe he's a fallen Skypean. Maybe he's a fallen priest. Maybe that's something that relates to him. I can't remember his name. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. But maybe that's, you know, maybe that's a factor. Maybe, honestly, it'd be kind of interesting if he's in the next arc and then we run into fucking Inaru. I mean, cause think about it. The island that we saw him near was like a lightning island. What One Piece character has lightning abilities? Inaru could totally be chilling on that island, and you know, Inaru's a badass villain. In my opinion, I always thought Inaru was a cool villain, so it'd be kind of cool if we got Inaru back with one of the supernovas. But like, he wasn't. But the problem with that is that would imply Inaru was still a villain. In which case, no one wants to see an Inaru versus Luffy part 2, because it'll be just as redundant. And it really just depends on how the plot is set up. These are just kind of random speculations I have. I'm trying to think, because honestly, the only characters I really haven't gone into detail with is Apu and Capone. And honestly, Apu isn't even on an island that really is necessarily weird, except for the fact that you can run on air, which they haven't really explained why the fuck that happened. But then again, you know, we haven't actually gotten to the island. We don't know if we're going to go to that island. Honestly, at this point, we can only really speculate about, you know, the cake island thing and, you know, Punk Hazard. I don't want to speculate in Punk Hazard because some of the things I might guess I haven't even seen because, you know, Shonen Jump Alpha's 2 weeks behind. And in terms of the Big Mom stuff, I'm totally expecting a Kid fight. Like, I'm totally expecting Kid to show up in that arc. Why? Because you've already hinted that this dude is fucking with Big Mom and himself. So, with him fucking with a Yonkou, I'm expecting his ass to show up. Just to go back with Drake, I expect the Drake, if he does show up in an arc, I expect it to be like Drake and Aokiji. I can always fuck up his name when I fucking pronounce it. Aokiji and Drake, or I expect it to be Drake and something to do with Kaido. Which is cool because we haven't seen Kaido yet in the series. For those who don't know who Kaido is the dude who kind of fucked Moria up. It's legitimately the reason why Moria uses zombies for his crew instead of like actual human beings, because Kaido not only whooped Moria's ass when Moria first went to the New World, which is why Moria wasn't in the New World when we met him, but he also killed that nigga's entire crew. Which also brings up the question, if he did all of this, did Moria gain... I'm assuming Moria didn't have the shadow power before that. I'm assuming he gained the shadow power after that and became, you know, a warlord of the sea. I'm kind of curious how the fuck Kaido fights, but that would also imply how the fuck did Moria fight before he gained the powers? And if he did have the shadow powers, what does that say about Kaido? I'm just, you know, these are just speculations. Obviously, I'm going into Emperor shit. But, you know, I'm kind of trying to base it around the supernovas. But that's just something that always intrigued me. Because it's like, if Kaido beat Moria, was that before or after he had his shadow powers? And if it was after he had his shadow powers, how the fuck did he beat Moria? Considering the nigga can switch between, like, his shadow self and his real self. And how the fuck did he avoid getting his shadow ripped off? Something tells me he probably fought that nigga before. But at the same time, why the fuck would Moria be scared after? I think Moria was still afraid of Kaido. And also that could bring up the question, is Moria still alive? Blah, 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 bullshit. But kind of just to get back on track with the supernovas, the last thing I'm probably going to talk about, Capone, the last thing we saw this nigga on, Capone was, actually, you know, you could actually do a Capone Inaru thing now, because if I think about it, the last thing we saw Capone is that nigga was on his ship, and the ship, like, flew up into the air and hit this random landmass. Now, a lot of people would speculate that one of the last ancient weapons is the moon. I know that idea has been thrown around since Inaru didn't technically die after that fight. He kind of just disappeared on his way to the moon, and we've seen that in cover stories, that he's on the moon hanging out with these, like, spacemen and shit. We could speculate that Capone is on the moon with Inaru, and Inaru has brought the moon down to a certain point. Even though it kind of looked like a fucking Edo Tensei when we first saw it in the manga. It kind of does. I mean, it's literally shit being pulled out of the fucking water and off the ground into this mass. That's exactly like the Edo Tensei. That could possibly be the moon. And it'd be kind of interesting to see if Capone... Because the thing is, we haven't really seen that much of these characters' personalities. I think Capone and the Angel dude is like the dudes we have seen the least of. Like in terms of personality. Bonnie, we know, is... I'm not totally sure how Bonnie is, really. I'm also kind of curious about a Devil Fruit, you know, as I said, the aging thing. Because I want to say she can age people, but that seems really cliched. But there's got to be something to it. Or maybe she's not aging herself. Maybe the food has something to do with the fact that she can change herself from a woman to a girl or some shit. You know, just throwing out ideas. But I'm going to stop it here. I'm kind of just rambling at this point. Throwing out ideas, speculations. Anyone have any ideas or any thoughts, you know, for the supernovas and later fights? And if anyone wants to talk about the Kaido shit, go ahead in the comment section. These are just ideas I had off the top of my head. But, you know, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. And leave your comments and thoughts and video responses in the comment section below. Thank you for the support. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.